Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. It is Sat Chat time. I hope you're having a great week. It is World Watercolor Month, the first week of World Watercolor Month, and that was the thing I did for the first day. And actually, there's a time lapse of that on YouTube if you want to see it. I spent like 2 hours and 40 minutes on that painting, and there is a real-time version of that up in Critique Club. If you're a member and you want to check it out, or you want to become a member, you can go check that out. I'll have a link in the video description. Also, it's July. My birthday is next week, so it's time for my annual birthday sale. And as you know, well, you may not know, you may be new here, but every year I put my whole school on sale for whatever my age is, that percentage off. So I'm going to be, guys, they say a lady never tells her age, but I'm going to be 48. So you can use a coupon code HB48 to take 48% off any course in my school. And my courses have lifetime access. So if you buy one of my classes and you don't have time to do it now, you got maybe time off in the winter, it's fine. You buy it now and you can do it whenever you have the chance to do it, which I think makes the self-paced lifetime access classes a great thing. And this is the biggest sale I do every year. It'll go on for a week, so, you know, and it's good on one-time payments and also payment plans. So if you want to break it up over a couple months, you can still get that savings. So HB48, I'll put that in the video description as well. So when you do your shopping, when you go to cash out, there's on the checkout page, there's an add coupon box. Well, it just says add coupon. You click on that, you type in HB48, and then you'll see your discount reflected right there. You will not see the discount on the prices when you're shopping. You got to put that coupon code in on the checkout page. So I'm sure you know how coupon codes work. They've been a thing for a while, but I like to just, you know, explain it just in case it's not clear. Because sometimes it's hard to find the coupon code boxes on websites. I think mine's pretty clear, but you know, sometimes you're excited, then you go buy it and like, oh goodness, I forgot to add the coupon. So there you go. I'm thinking I have a list and oh my goodness. Yeah, I have a list. So yesterday was the 4th of July. I always film my Sat Chats on Friday, usually. Sometimes I'll film a little bit earlier in the week if I've got a really busy Friday coming up. But so yesterday was 4th of July. My husband is a radio announcer, so he always ends up, if it's on a weekday, he has to go in and do his air shift. And my filming room here where I do the Sat Chats and most of my filming was a mess. The Room of Hoard table was a mess because I'd been filming a class in there for Altenew. And it just felt like I wanted to get tidied up because I've been doing most of my World Watercolor Month paintings on the deck. So it doesn't, this is living in chaos down here. It didn't matter because I was painting up on the deck. I have several little areas around the house where I stash art supplies. I have a drafting table in my bedroom, which is it's right next to the French doors that go out to the balcony. And that's where I love to do any painting in the summer. Anything I'm not filming, I love to just sit on the deck and paint. It's mostly shaded all day, so it's just really comfortable and nice, and you're up in the treetops. It's just great. That's my favorite part of the house. It's technically not in the house. It's it's the deck. And so I have that. I have this like a set of markers up there. I've got a set of watercolors, which I do rotate the watercolors out. Currently, I've got some Paul Rubens watercolors up there. Because I'm getting ready to review their new floral set, which is a revamp or a re-release of a tube floral set they had like about 5 or 6 years ago, which was great, but is sold out. And so I want to compare those. But anyway, but it's like their classic paints. And so I've done a couple paintings with those up there. And then I have my office, which is my oldest son's, my only son's old bedroom, which is where we have the desktop computer. And I have my standing desk there. I have some art supply stashed there. And then in the living room, I have a little sailor's desk, a little captain's desk, which I have art supply stashed in. So yeah, there's little hidey holes everywhere in case I'm inspired at any point in the house and I'm too lazy to come down here. I can just grab my stuff and go, because you need to remove the friction if you want to make art. You need to take away any sort of obstacles to make art. So it might be a little box tucked under your bed or under your couch or on the bookshelf or whatever it is. Make it easy for yourself, right? Don't make it harder on yourself. Don't make things packed away and hard to get. So, but yesterday I'm like, okay, I really need to tidy up. Now I like tidying up my craft area much more than tidying up the rest of the house, because then I get to like put stuff away and see what I have, and I don't know, I find that very therapeutic for some reason. And another thing I like about it is that when I start cleaning, I walk down the studio. Sometimes if I walk down in the studio and it's all put away and everything is all tidy and looks great, I don't want to make a mess. But if I walk down in the studio and I've started with a mess, then I'm kind of starting with some momentum. I start putting things away and I start thinking about what I want to make. And it's like starting your car on a hill or starting your walk on a hill. You're going downhill and it's easier to build up that momentum. So yesterday I posted a video. It's probably the most boring piece of footage on YouTube. I don't know. But it's basically, it's just me cleaning. It's just me cleaning my studio and talking about the stuff I was using. That's all it is. I don't know. You can watch it. You can put it on when you're getting ready to clean, like put it on your phone and just set it on a shelf while you're cleaning. And it's like you get somebody there working next to you. And I find that to be very helpful. So sometimes I will do that. I will put on a video where somebody is tidying up their space because it just makes you feel like you're not alone, especially if you don't like to tidy up and you don't like to clean. You got somebody else going through it with you. The sad thing about this is though, and it was like, it doesn't take as long as you think. And I set a timer on my phone when I was doing it. And I set my tripod up over on the other side of the room over there. and I had it pointed at my desk and I put stuff away. I'm talking away, chatting up. I look up and the screen is blank on my camera. I forgot to press record. Can you believe it? Veteran YouTuber of 14 years forgets to press record on her camera. So the first 5 minutes, the worst of the mess in here, didn't even get photographed. But trust me, it was messy. And anyway, but it's still like a 45-minute video of, because I talked for like 5 minutes before I even began cleaning. So anyway, so it actually was the same amount of time as me cleaning. Although I probably could have cleaned quicker if I didn't have to move the camera around to see different aspects of the the slovenly mess. But still, it only took 45 minutes to clean up both rooms, which, you know, if you would have saw the mess, you're like, wow, that's going to take all day. It does not take as long as you think it is. I find that unpleasant tasks usually take less time than you think they're going to, and then fun tasks take more time than you think you're going to. Isn't that funny? I notice that a lot, like if I'm like, oh, the sink is full of dishes, and it's like, I want to go to bed, but I'm just going to, you know, it's going to take me an hour to clean this, and I like wash the dishes, it takes 12 minutes, you know what I mean? So think about that. And then sometimes I'll be like, I want to paint the living room. This is going to be so awesome, so fun. I'm going to love it. It'll take me one day. I'll get it done in a day. And then it'll be like 3 days later and I'm finally putting like touches, like I'm finally bringing the furniture back in the room, you know. It's projects that you think are going to take less time that are fun, that you want to do, will often take longer than you anticipate, and stuff that you are dreading, that you think will take all day, will be much quicker, which is a good thing, really. I think it's a good thing because then when you're done, you're like, oh, I have all this time left. And I think that's why I get so much momentum for cleaning the studio before I start working, because I think it's going to take a lot of time, and I'm like maybe thinking, okay, I'm 4 hours, I'm going to clean for 4 hours, but it takes me half an hour, and then I've got all that time left to actually be creative and clean. Maybe not 4 hours, but you know what I mean. So just, it's a little encouragement, hopefully a little cleaning encouragement for you. We all need encouragement. Lord knows. We all need it. We all need encouragement. So yeah, I saw this funny meme. I was gonna I don't think I mentioned it last week. I have it on my list and I didn't check it off, so I don't think I mentioned it last week, but I saw this meme and it has nothing to do with crafting, but a friend of mine posted this meme that she likes to fall asleep on the couch before she goes to bed. It's like a little sleep before she has her big sleep, and she likes to call it a snores d'oeuvre. And I was laughing, and I showed that to my husband. He goes, it should be called an appetizer. Isn't that funny? I was just like, okay, I know jokes are not as funny when you explain them, but an appetizer, I like that. I'm a person that cannot nap unless they are ill. I don't know why. I can lay down and close my eyes and daydream and stuff, but I can't fall asleep. But I thought that was funny, snorters. But I do fall asleep, before I go to bed, I'll be watching TV, and I'll be sitting at the end of the day, and I'll start to doze off. So I guess I do have snore d'oeuvres or appetizers before I go to bed. And I get cranky if I'm accused of sleeping. Oh, I don't like to be accused of being tired. Just go to bed. I'm not even sleeping. I'm not even tired. Don't tell me what to do. I do not like people telling me what to do. Oh, and I saw a really interesting video this week. And the video was weird because it was the camera angles were very weird, and they kept zooming in and out and cutting these weird footage. I was kind of just listening to it. It would have made a better podcast, I think. But anyway, the title of the video, on the thumbnail, it said, "Is it a hobby or just consumerism?" And this woman was talking about how, and she was a younger woman, and she was talking about how she bought these pickleball rackets because she wanted to spend time with her friends, but she has never played pickleball. And she bought like these different hobby supplies, like yarn and stuff, because she wanted to crochet this thing, but she's never even crocheted. And she bought this because she wanted to do this, because she's never done that. And then she kept seeing all these memes online saying that like buying craft supplies and crafting are actually 2 different hobbies. And we could even say buying craft supplies, organizing craft supplies, and using craft supplies are actually 3 different hobbies. And I thought this was really interesting to hear that from like a younger perspective. But that was to the point where they bought the supplies but hadn't even tried the craft, which is I think even more concerning, because like with pickleball, I didn't buy my own rackets. Actually, didn't buy my own rackets. They were a birthday present 2 years ago for my husband, and because I was just fine using the rackets at the rec center, because I only played once a week. It's not like I needed to invest in my own rackets. I didn't know what I was missing because I was just using theirs. Once I got my own rackets, I'm like, oh, these are much nicer. But I wouldn't have known what I was missing, and I probably would have been happy with that. But you can see once you get a good racket, then you're like, ooh, what's out there? Is there a better racket? And I went to play pickleball Monday, and I hadn't played since like December. And I actually thought it might be dead because it was so hot out, but it was actually quite busy. And a lot of the people that play several times a week in different leagues. And this one woman was like, oh, I'm going to use Steve's paddle because he has a better paddle. And I'm like, I don't feel like I'm experienced enough to notice the nuance between, it's kind of like that. It's kind of like the cheap wine. There's a big difference between $2 bottle of wine and a $7 bottle of wine, but there's not as big of a difference between a $7 bottle of wine and a $20 bottle of wine, and there's even less difference between a $20 bottle of wine and a $50 bottle of wine. So it's kind of like those jumps get smaller as you go up in quality. It's kind of like watercolors. The huge difference between dollar store watercolors and like Cotman watercolors. There's a pretty big size difference between Cotman. There's not as big of a difference between Cotman watercolors and Winsor & Newton professional. Then when you get to in the professional range, there's very little difference between the $15 tube paint and the $25 tube paint. There's the jumps get smaller and smaller. It's kind of like everything. It's kind of like your growth as an artist. When you're a beginner, you're making these huge leaps and bounds of growth and experience. And like you paint day 1, you're like, ooh, that's kind of rough. And the second time you paint, maybe you follow a tutorial, hey, that's pretty good. And then like as you go on, your steps get further apart. You make less large jumps between grow, like, how do I say that? So like, and if you're a runner, if you're any of those things, you're going to make all these huge leaps and bounds at the beginning, then you kind of plateau and make smaller increment steps. The better you get, the more experienced you get, and the more you kind of climb up into the more professional or advanced ranks. There's just fewer huge breakthroughs you're going to make. And it does seem to go like that. And I see that a lot, where people will be like, well, I'm using blank professional watercolors, but I heard about this other hot trendy watercolor that's even more expensive. Maybe I need to get that to make my artwork grow, to make my artwork get better. I'll get this better paint, then my artwork will get better. But I think once you're up in that range where you have a decent set of professional paints, you get a decent supply of professional paints, you're not going to find a paint that's really going to push your work that much. You may get an increment better, maybe, but yeah, once you've gone from student grade up to professional grade, I don't think there's another paint that's going to like improve your skill level. Like you can be painting beautifully with a student grade paint. There's some great student grade paints out there, and then you switch. And then one thing you switch is like you switch up your paint. You're going to get a little bit better of a result. I think at any level when you're painting, if you do upgrade your paper and your watercolors to professional level, you are going to see that improvement from the materials. But once you're in that professional level of materials, you're using Arches paper or some other good quality paper and using a good quality paint, you're not really going to see huge jumps. But I think sometimes we think that if we just get that thing, then it's going to make us better. If I just buy those sneakers, providing my sneakers that I already have are in good shape and they haven't broken down or anything, those new sneakers, maybe it would shave a fraction of a second off of my run, but they're not going to make a huge difference. Like I've got a fairly cheap kayak. My kayak was a couple $100, right? My paddleboard's a couple $100. Maybe if I spent $1,000 on a kayak or a paddle board, on a better paddle board, I would go a little bit faster or it'd be a little bit easier to paddle, but it would be incremental, I think. You know what I mean? I'm not going to have twice the enjoyment on a $1,000 paddleboard as I am on my $400 paddleboard. You know what I mean? It might make me go a little faster, it might take a little less effort to paddle it, but am I gonna enjoy it twice as much? Probably not. And the other thing is that when we, and I know, you know, with Prime, Amazon Prime Day is coming up later this month, and probably there was a bunch of sales yesterday for 4th of July. I don't know. I didn't pay attention. It's exciting to try something new, and it's exciting to buy something. We get that little dopamine hit, and it's frictionless. It's like keeping yard supplies stashed all over your house. It's frictionless. It's easy to do. It's easy to click buy now and think, you know, ooh, I'm gonna have this thing. I'm gonna do all this stuff with it, and then you get to anticipate it coming. Then it comes, and you open it up. Ooh, you get another little hit, and then it's like, okay, we either forget about it or we use it. And if we don't, maybe we use it, we're disappointed, and that's too bad. Or maybe we never use it. It sits on a shelf, and then, you know, we organize it, and we might feel good about organizing and having it, but. Yeah, the real dopamine hit, though, is using your supplies, and you can do that without spending any money. You can go pull something off the shelf, and that's when we find those things, is when we tidy up our studio. So I guess yesterday's video, I don't know if I really explained it. Well, I don't think so, because I was just cleaning and talking about cleaning as I was doing it, and I lost that first clip of footage, which I don't remember what I talked about during that first clip, but when you're putting stuff away on shelves, even if you haven't used that product, you might put something up away and like, oh yes, I forgot I had quilling supplies. That was fun to do. I remember quilling. Maybe I'll take those down and you know, set at the kitchen table with the kids or with a friend and do some quilling, or, you know, because you're putting stuff away and you're kind of you know, maybe cleaning stuff off, maybe wiping down a shelf, you remember that you have them, and that gives you a little dopamine hit. And then if you take them down and use them, there you'll get the strongest dopamine hit, because you're putting in more effort. And I think the more effort you put in, the more strong your satisfaction will be when you use the thing. So tidy your studio up. Don't be overwhelmed. Just get in there and do a shelf if that's all you got. Set your timer. I always have this little chicken timer here. I always have some sort of timer. I mean, we all have them on our phones, but there's something very tactile about an analog timer where you just can kind of crank it and you can see the numbers and you can hear it ticking. There's just something very real and satisfying about that versus just hitting the timer on your phone, which is nothing wrong with that. But when I'm doing the timer on my phone, you couldn't do a countdown timer. I was hitting the stopwatch on my phone for yesterday's video, but when you do this, you crank it up to 10 minutes, and when it rings, you can see, especially if you think to take a photo, I always forget this, but if you think to take a photo of whatever space you're working on, set your timer for 10 or 15 minutes, tell yourself, when that rings, I can just leave this room and not come back for the rest of the week if I don't want to. You usually have got so much momentum, and then you feel good, and you look back at that photo, the thing rings, you look back at your photo, it's like, wow, I actually did quite a bit. And the same thing goes for drawing. You can be like, oh, I want to do World Watercolor Month, but I'm really overwhelmed. Set the timer for 15 minutes and just start. Something that I find helps when you're trying to do a challenge, you're trying to get into that spirit of creating, is to use a medium you're not used to, that you don't use very often. So if you always sketch with a pencil, like graphite, maybe pick up a pen, like a waterproof pen, and sketch with that. Or if that feels a little too intimidating, use an erasable colored pencil. I refound a product that I hadn't used probably since last Inktober, and that was because I hadn't painted on the deck since last Inktober, because it's still pretty nice on the beginning of October here in Maine, so I will do a lot of my Inktober's on the deck too. But it was this drum they were a kid's product. I don't know if they still make that, if it's still made or not, because Arteza like churns through products so quickly, but they're erasable colored pencils by Arteza, and it was a set of 48, so more colors than the Color Erase pencils that I have, which I have the Color Erase here. I use those all the time. But they erase beautifully, and the erasers that are actually on the pencils work great. And my set's probably 4 or 5 years old, I would say. I'm trying to think. I don't remember how old it is, but I've had it for quite a while, and it's got 48 different colors. And I sketched in, I don't have my sketchbook down here because it's up on my desk in my bedroom, but I sketched in a light orange pencil, I think, or pink or orange, I can't remember. But then I used some purple, and then I used some orange. So I sketched in. The prompt was Signal, and if you go to my Instagram account, I am at Lindsay Weirich, or you click on the link in the description. If you scroll down, you'll see my list of social media. Just click on the Instagram one. And actually, it might be on my YouTube channel too. There might be just an Instagram button to click. So the prompt was Signal, so I did a thumbs up, because, you know, we always use a thumbs up signal. Like you're eating at a restaurant, your mouth's full of food, and the waitress comes back and she's like, how's your food? And you're like, because my mouth is full of food and I don't want to talk with my mouth full. And, or like you're on your water skis and you're waiting, the boat driver's waiting to hear if you're okay. Give a thumbs up, like you're ready to go. Or you're, you know, that's the universal signal for, yep, we're all set, we're groovy, everything's good, I need a ride, you know, whatever. Don't hitchhike. That's bad. That's bad. I don't want you to get murdered. But so I thought that's what I'll do. And I did a whole month of Inktober where I just did I did hands every day because I wanted to get better at drawing hands. And I'm first sketching there with that first colored pencil. I'm like, oof, that does not look right. That does not look right. So what I did was actually, I did a thumbs up and I took a photo of it with my phone. And so I sketched from the photo because it is easier to, I think, to draw from a photo than real life sometimes, especially if you need your hand to be drawing. And actually, in my left thumb. But anyway, it was easier to work from a photo than to just keep holding my hand out there. And when you do your preliminary sketch in one color, then you can take another color and just kind of fix it with the other color. And a lot of times I'll do that without erasing my first lines, and then I'll erase when I feel like, okay, I've got it about right. And then at the end, after I did all my watercoloring, then I went in with a Prismacolor, like it was like a kind of a dark purple color, and I did some kind of fine lining over the shadow, the darker lines with the Prismacolor in like that dark purple, and then I went in with some different lighter colors. I think they were the Brut Funer Macaron colors, because I've ended up with 3 of the identical product. Because, and this is another thing, if we want to circle back to, you know, buying things and getting a hit of dopamine, and I think you need to hear this before Prime Days. Now, I will tell you, every Prime Day I do go through and I look to try to find good products that are on sale, and I do a list on my YouTube community tab. Don't click show more on that if you don't want to be tempted. I'm going to put it there for anyone because I know teachers will wait for these sales. Some people save their budget, their art supply budget for the Prime Day sales. I'll put it out there for those who want it. But if you don't want to see it, don't click show more. Don't look at the list. But I will prepare a list. Because I find a lot of companies, a lot of sellers will participate, but they don't pay Amazon for the promotional, you know, sale listings. So if you go to like Amazon, you click on arts, crafts, and sewing to see what's going to be on sale in the creative supply stuff, all you're going to see is the white labeled junk that is on promotion, that is marked up double so they can mark it down for Prime Day. That's not what I'm interested in. I'm looking for the Sennelier, I'm looking for the M-Gram, I'm looking for the Winsor & Newton, I'm looking for Schminke, I'm looking for Arches, I'm looking for Bauhung, I'm looking for Paul Rubens, which they actually do participate in the Amazon Prime promotions, but I'm looking for the high quality supplies that are going to be buried on page 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and the stuff that I would recommend and that I have used. I'm not putting these, oh, that looks like a good deal on some, you know, random pencils I've never used. If I've never used it, I'm not listing it. So, or I haven't, you know, it might be a color like M-Gram watercolors. I've used most of their, well, I haven't used most of their colors, but I have a lot of their colors. So it might be a set where there's a color or two I haven't used from that brand, but if it's M-Gram and it's a good price, I will list it. You know what I mean? Like I haven't tried every color in every brand, but I have tried, I would say probably most of the major brands. And yeah, so that is, like I don't, actually, I was just trying to think, is there some set that I have some of that I really like that I don't have the whole set? I'm sure there are. But that will be there if you want it. But I also think that if you have good quality supplies, probably anything that's coming down the pike is not going to be better than what you already have. And you are going to feel better if you use those things you have versus buying another set of watercolors. If you already have M-Gram, if you already have Schminke, if you already have Winsor & Newton, if you already have Daniel Smith, you're probably not going to have a benefit. You might get a temporary dopamine hit, and you may have fun using them. Maybe you want a cheap set to take with you on vacation because you're afraid you might lose it or your luggage might get lost or something, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with collecting watercolor palettes if that brings you joy, or collecting rubber stamps. As I've mentioned before, my 2 collections are especially wood-mounted rubber stamps. I love wood-mounted rubber stamps. If I see them on a yard sale or at a thrift store and there's something that I would actually use and they would not duplicate what I have in my collection, oh yeah, especially if they're personal stamp exchange or Museum of Modern Rubber, oh my gosh, I love those. I love the Museum of Modern Rubber stamps. When I find those, I'm like, oh yeah, some old Stamperosa, like those old house mouse Stamperosa stamps. Sometimes people will message me like, will you sell your house mouse, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, nope. I enjoy using it. I enjoy having it. I enjoy looking at it. It's just like how some people collect like fine china or pottery or different things like that, I really find such a joy in rubber stamps for some reason. Vintage sewing supplies. I've got a jar of old threads and I've got a box of old patterns. I use them in that still life. I might make that dress. I don't know. I don't know. I have to size it up a bit because those vintage girlies were tiny. They were tiny. And no amount of MyFitnessPal is going to be making me down in the tiny little vintage sizes. But oh, so fun, so fun. And travel watercolor palettes, because I actually took the tiny little Fun 2 one out last weekend. We went strawberry picking. And I did a quick sketch in the car of a strawberry and then ate it, and it was so delicious. And then the next day I made jam, because I'm telling you, you pick strawberries, they do not last like the grocery store strawberries. They taste so much better, but you have such a shorter shelf life. So I made like 6 jars of jam. Hopefully that'll get us through till next spring strawberry season. I don't know. We will go through maybe a jar of jam every couple months because we buy like the sugar-free stuff, and I guess it's probably not very tasty. Homemade jam does not last nearly as long. But I did make a bunch of jam. I also made a bunch of garlic scape pesto and jarred that up while I was at it, because I was washing all my canning jars because I had no idea how much jam the strawberries would make. But I brought my little sketching thing, and I sketched a strawberry in the car in my tiny little sketchbook, and I sketched the silk flower arrangement at the table while I was waiting for our lunch. We went to lunch afterwards. My husband and I took Lila with us, and it was just so much fun. And that little pocket sketchbook worked great, and it was clips to my wallet, so it's perfect. So I love it when stuff like that works out. So, and the travel palettes, I enjoy them. I go and play with different ones at different times, and I find that to be a collection that's worthwhile. So if I see a unique travel palette, even though, no, it's not going to make me paint outside more, it's not going to improve my painting ability, it's kind of a fun novelty thing that I collect. So there's nothing wrong with that. But I think if we believe that the magic is in the supplies, the new supplies we buy, rather than in us and the work that we put in and the time that we put in, then we're doing ourselves a disservice, and we're not giving ourselves the credit that we deserve. Because if you have a piece of paper and a pencil, you have what you need to create art. And buying $1,000 worth of art supplies isn't going to make you a better artist. Putting the time in is going to make you the better artist. And that's why I would say you don't need to have a lot of money to get into art and to become a good artist, because drawing is king. Drawing is the one skill that's going to make you better. And you can do that with a number 2 pencil and a notebook, you know. So just a little encouragement. You don't need to go spend a ton of money on Prime Day. Don't feel pressured. Don't feel pressured to do that. And I say that as someone who benefits from people spending money on Prime Day through my affiliate links, but I don't want that to come at the expense of you being true to yourself and you doing what's right for you. And we all have bills to pay, and we all have lives to live, and we all have limited funds and limited time. Time is truly our limited resource, and I want you to make the most of it. And I don't want you working an extra 10 hours to pay off that credit card bill because you shopped on Prime Day and maybe you didn't have it in your budget to. So all that to say, and yes, don't buy my classes during my birthday sale if you're tight on funds. You know, I don't want to encourage that either. But if you have been saving up for classes, they're 48% off this week. I will leave the information in the video description. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And as always, happy crafting. Bye!